Have you ever been injured on the job, or maybe hurt in an accident, or maybe had some kind of debilitating illness or medical condition? Have these things ever impacted your ability to work? Well, if you have, then it's important that you know and understand about the interactive process meeting. This meeting is driven by the Americans with Disabilities Act at the federal level and the California Fair Employment Housing Act at the state level. The federal law is oftentimes referred to as ADA, as amended in 2008, or the California law is oftentimes referred to as FEHA. Whether you've been injured on the job or anywhere else, both of these laws apply. Basically, what it provides you with is an opportunity to sit down with your employer in a confidential process, a confidential meeting, often facilitated by a third-party facilitator or mediator. That person is oftentimes highly trained in each of these laws, as well as what's called the reasonable accommodation process. What this means is that if any medical condition results in long-term functional limitations, maybe you can't lift as much, maybe you can't push as much, maybe you can't work as much. All of those things can impact how you perform your job. And when job performance is impacted, it's critical that you as an employee and your employer sit down and discuss just what are the medical functional limitations and the essential functions of your job. Now, a couple of things to know. This is a confidential process, and largely because we are talking about your medical information. So there are some confidentiality forms that do get signed to protect your privacy. Now, on the employer side, it's important that people who need to know are present. So this may include your supervisor or manager, oftentimes a representative from human resources or risk management. Together, we work as a team to explore, again, just how your functional limitations impact your ability to be at work, stay at work, and perform the work. With that in mind, you are also able to have a representative attend with you. This might be a family member, a close friend, or if you are represented by a labor union, then asking a member from the union to participate as well. Again, the whole idea is to come together as a team to have a conversation. Now, a couple of things to know is that sometimes a doctor might say you can return to work on a temporary basis with temporary limitations. We always encourage employers to actively work with employees who have temporary conditions. However, they're exactly that, temporary. Oftentimes, in many employment situations, it might be that temporary accommodation, performing a version of your job or any other kind of work might be possible for 60 days, 90 days, and if while at work you continue to make improvement in your recovery, then it's possible that the temporary accommodation process could be extended for another 60 or 90 days. But in no case is temporary employment ever intended to be more than 6 months. There are lots of reasons for that, and I won't go into them here, but it is important to know that there is a short time frame for temporary accommodation. And with any medical condition, your doctor will be asked to make some determinations about when you reach maximum medical improvement, or what's called MMI, or in the workers' compensation system, oftentimes referred to as permanent stationary, or P&S. Once that status is reached from a medical perspective, then the process shifts. We're no longer talking about temporary accommodations, but instead we begin talking about long-term accommodations. And what that means is coming up with changes to the method or manner in which you may perform the job, or using an assistive device or an adaptive aid that will still help you perform all the essential functions to the performance standards expected. An employer is never required to remove an essential function that you can't do, nor is an employer ever required to lower performance expectations if you cannot perform at the same rate. So the whole idea of the interactive process for reasonable accommodation is to help restore you to your full working potential with or without accommodation, now that you have some kind of medical condition that produced some kind of long-term functional limitations. So again, we work as a team. It sounds formal, but it's actually a sort of an informal process. And the whole idea is to help you get back to work, stay at work, and perform the work as safely as possible. Your safety is very important. And so we never want to put you or others around you at risk by returning to work with or without accommodations now that you have some functional limitations. And it's also important to remember that we try to focus specifically on you performing your job in a way that minimizes the impact on others. The more we impact others around you, the more we impact the department in which you're performing the work, then that may produce a much bigger impact and actually result in an undue hardship for the employer. Each case is taken on a case-by-case basis. And so just because something's been done in one situation doesn't mean it's going to be done in another situation. And so again, the law provides, both at the state and the federal level, that we look at these things on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes there's only one meeting. Sometimes it might take several meetings. Sometimes it might even mean going back to your medical provider to ask additional questions to help us clarify or gain a better understanding. Because whatever your functional limitations are, it's not that they apply only at work. It means it applies to all of your life. And so we will want to know a little bit more about how you're impacted on a day-to-day basis, performing activities of daily living. This gives us a much better idea, particularly your meeting facilitator, about the scope and impact of your medical condition. So we ask that you be truthful, honest, and together we can work to produce a reasonable accommodation that helps you get back to work, stay at work, and perform the work as required by your employer. That's what we call the interactive process, a collaborative teamwork effort to help you return to work as soon as medically appropriate. Thank you. I'm Dr. Deborah Dupree with Relationships at Work, and yes, I do provide this kind of interactive facilitative process. Perhaps I'll see you at your next IPM. Thank you so much. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me through my website at www.relationships-at-work.com. And there, if you click on services, you'll see an entire page dedicated to the interactive process where you can get more information as well as websites that are relevant to the ADA, FEHA, and Job Accommodation Network. I thank you again for listening and look forward to hearing from you.